3 spine-chilling true tales of Sinister Lighthouse secrets. You've never discovered. Melanie never believed the tales. Not until the first night when she felt something watch her from the shadows of the old lighthouse looming over Harrow's End. It stood like a skeletal sentinel, a relic of a time before the ocean swallowed the town's happiness. The townsfolk whispered of things that went bump in the night, tales of missing children and families that vanished on stormy evenings, their cries echoing into the eternal dark. As a single mother, she felt the danger edge closer, but she tried to dismiss the fear until it gripped her one unsettling evening. The air was heavy as Melanie took her kids for a walk, hoping the crisp, salty breeze could clear the dread coating her mind. The streets had a bleak, abandoned feel, the flickering streetlights casting ghostly shadows. When they neared the lighthouse, her heart began to race, not from excitement but dread. We should turn back, she told herself, but her children giggled, their laughter mingling with the crashing waves, drawing her further toward the beacon's flickering light like moths to a flame. A chill swept through the air, pushing goosebumps up her arms. "Kids, wait," she called, rushing after them, panic bubbling. But they were already at the entrance, their small hands swinging the rusted doorknob wide open. The door creaked eerily, the sound echoing like a harbinger of doom. Inside, the air was stifling with mildew, the scent sinking into her lungs, making her feel trapped. The walls, draped in dust, held faded photos that seemed to move with her heartbeat, whispering secrets long buried. In the eerie stillness, old newspapers littered a nearby table like fallen leaves, a graveyard of forgotten tales. Disappearances, flooding tragedies. Families that had come seeking refuge, only to find the lighthouse swaddled in sorrow. "Keep your distance," she warned her children, her voice shaking as she fumbled through the clippings. The community had always known something was off about the keeper, a figure who smiled, yet his eyes spoke of sinister intentions. Then, footsteps from behind a door shattered her fragile facade of courage. A figure emerged, a man, the keeper, wearing a smile that felt too wide, too sharp. She felt a cold sweat trickle down her back as his gaze lingered unnaturally on her children. His presence wrapped around her like a noose, tightening with each heartbeat. Before she could demand the truth, a violent buzz echoed from her pocket. Trembling, she glanced down. A text message from an unknown number. "You need to leave. Trust no one." Her blood ran cold, the dread pooling in her stomach and spilling over as she realized whatever darkness hid within the lighthouse was now fixating on her family. Her mind raced as the puzzle pieces told a gruesome story, one that could entrap her children in a web of horror. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Back in the room, the lighthouse keeper stepped closer, his smile fading into something darker. A predatory glint ignited in his eyes, and Melanie felt the air thicken, pressing down on her. The lighthouse, with its trembling beams, stood on the edge of revelation and ruin. She was caught, a single mother, a protector, thrust into a nightmare as shadows crept in, suffocating all semblance of safety. With her heart pounding violently, she scooped up her children, recognizing the peril pulsing around them. But if she thought the creepy lighthouse was the end of her troubles, she was dead wrong. Behind her, the keeper's voice cut through the silence. "You can't just leave, Melanie. The real story is just beginning." The dark abyss, taut with chilling promise, loomed closer. What would she uncover next? And would she risk everything to find out? With the keeper's voice hanging ominously in the air, Melanie's instincts screamed for her to flee. The flickering light cast chaotic shadows on the walls, and her children looked up at her, wide-eyed and innocent, unaware of the danger looming just beyond their reach. She forced herself to breathe, to think. "Stay close to me," she hissed, her voice low but urgent. The figure before them seemed to swell in the dim light, looming larger than life. His eyes glinted in a way that made her stomach twist, and despite the fear that shackled her, she had to protect her children. "Please leave," she directed, her voice gaining an ounce of authority. "We're not here to cause trouble." The keeper's laughter echoed through the narrow space, deep and reverberating, as if coming from the very walls around them. "Trouble?" he echoed. "Oh, trouble is merely a lens through which one sees the truth." Melanie clutched her kids tight, their small hands trembling in hers. The keeper's gaze was fixated, and she could feel the air around them thickening, closing in like a vice. Shapes danced in the corners of her vision, shadows moving unnaturally. It was as if the lighthouse itself had begun to stir, alive with an energy that should have remained buried. She spotted an old lamp on a table, its glass shade cracked and dusty. If she could throw it, create a distraction, running could be their only chance. But an overwhelming dread anchored her feet in place. What if this was a trap? What if running only led them deeper into the darkness? As if sensing her hesitation, the keeper stepped even closer, and his smile returned with an unsettling intensity. "You will come to understand, Melanie," he said, his voice silky smooth. "Every family should learn about the sacrifices made to keep the light burning. It's not just the lighthouse that needs protection, but the legacy of those that have come before." Terror clawed at her throat, tightening like a noose. "What did you do?" she demanded, her voice unsteady. "You're hiding something. Why did you trap those families?" He merely chuckled, the sound dripping with sardonic delight. "They weren't trapped, dear. They simply chose to stay. Forever. Given life to tales she thought were mere urban legends." His words wrapped around her mind. The missing children had all become part of the keeper's dark family? A painting on the wall caught her eye, framed in an ornate gold border. It was unnervingly familiar faces of happy children flickering in the light. Only, as she squinted closer, those faces morphed into twisted smiles, thinly veiled in sorrow. "Look closely, Melanie. Do you see them?" he taunted, gesturing at the wall, inviting her to confront the horrors hidden in plain sight. The realization struck her like a cold wave. The portraits were not merely decorations but warnings, each frame an echo of the past. The lighthouse felt like a living entity, its walls pulsating with a rhythm, a breath that was both ghostly and enticing. Her instincts flared wildly. The fight or flight response pulled her in opposite directions. She needed to choose quickly. Suddenly, a loud crash from above thundered through the structure, and the keeper's demeanor shifted. The malicious smile cracked and fell, revealing a flicker of something. Panic? She seized the moment, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Run!" she yelled, grabbing her children by the hands and pulling them toward the exit. But the door was suddenly barred, a shadowy figure blocking their path within. They were trapped within the clutches of the lighthouse's secrets, and only the keeper stood between them and the enigmatic terror resting on the stairwell above. "What do I need to do?" she shouted, desperation fuel burning in her chest. Silence engulfed them, thick and heavy, as the keeper's expression twisted into a scowl. "Only one will escape," he replied, a wild glimmer in his eye. "And the lighthouse has chosen." Fear rippled down her spine as the keeper reached behind him, and Melanie realized this was just the beginning. The weight of choice loomed, and little time remained to make it. Would she sacrifice herself for her children, or find a way to save them all? Questions swirled in her mind, confusion drowning out the hope. The lighthouse was awakening, the echoes of its past calling for a blood price. What would Melanie unveil next? And at what cost? A deafening silence enveloped the room. Melanie felt the chill of the air biting at her skin, each breath a struggle against the suffocating dread closing in around them. The keeper's gaze was fixed, his expression shifting into something more monstrous, a hint of madness lurking in the glimmer of his eyes. "Choose wisely, Melanie," he warned, his voice dripping with malice. "It's not merely life or death at stake. It's legacy and loyalty." The shadow at the door loomed larger, morphing as it blocked their escape. Her heart raced as she glanced at her children, their innocent faces blurring with terror. "Mommy, what does he mean?" her daughter whispered, her eyes wide and pleading. "Shoo! Stay close," she hissed, panic rising like bile in her throat. The keeper took a step toward them, each movement deliberate, like a hunter toying with its prey. "Your children aren't the first to stand here. And they won't be the last," he sneered, relish dripping from every word. Melanie's mind stumbled over what had become a ghastly riddle. What sacrifice was he talking about? What choice could possibly cost one of them their life? The old lamp remained temptingly within reach. It flickered invitingly, its dim light a reminder of the simple warmth that felt utterly out of place in this nightmare. "They're waiting," the keeper pressed. He stepped back, giving them space, but the threat was palpable. All the children before, who chose to shine forever in the light. A wave of nausea washed over her, an image of smiling faces eclipsed by twisted shadows suddenly filling her mind. The portraits. They were testament to a dark fate, a cruel bargain snatched from the jaws of innocence. A sickening realization sank deep in her chest. Was she being asked to bargain like all those before her, to enter a twisted pact for her children to survive? "Mommy, please, I don't want to stay here." Her son's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. The desperation in his tone ignited a fierce protective instinct within her. "Melanie, the lighthouse is hungry," the keeper interrupted, his voice suddenly cold as ice. "Only by feeding the light will you find your way out, to escape the fate of those trapped." Footsteps echoed above them, heavy thuds that sent shivers down her spine. The lighthouse might have been a calm beacon on the outside, but now it felt like a beast, thrumming with energy, demanding something from her. Low whispers skittered around the corners of the room. Their eerie insistence seemed to call to her, urging her to embrace the darkness within. The air thickened once more. Shadows emerged, swirling around her, taunting her with their chilling laughter. "Mommy!" Her children's cries shattered the hushed silence. "Stop! Get away from them!" Melanie pushed her kids behind her, a primal scream threatening to erupt from her throat. She had to make a choice. "Only one of you can leave," the keeper announced, his tone turning grave and thunderous. "The choice is yours, Melanie." The distant sounds of laughter from the portraits echoed in her mind, reminding her of those who had come before. Would she take on the burden herself? Or would she sacrifice one? Torn between outcome and consequence, her heart leaped in a frantic dance. A sliver of thought in a tempest of dread struck her. There must be a way to outsmart him. Could she trick the keeper into revealing a weakness? "What if I offer you something else?" she shouted, desperation taking the wheel of her mind. "Something more valuable? A memory, a truth from the past?" The keeper's expression shifted slightly, curiosity peeking in his features. What truth could possibly hold power in this realm? Just as Melanie felt a flicker of hope, the shadows around her shrieked with disapproval. The choice hovered there like a precipice, dark and foreboding, ready to tip into disaster. What will she barter? Guilt and loyalty battled in her heart, but fate was unforgiving. The keeper's eyes darkened, glimmering, demanding more than she was ready to give. "Make your choice," his voice a low growl, vibrating with ominous anticipation. As her thoughts spiraled, one question pierced through the fog of horror. What truly lay hidden within the depths of the lighthouse, and could she ever hope to find it before it was too late? The air shimmered with tension, thick like fog wrapping around them. Melanie's heart drummed against her ribs as the keeper's gaze sharpened. The shadows quivered with anticipation. She desperately searched his face, convinced some glimmer of humanity might still lie buried beneath that monstrous exterior. "If I tell you a truth, what will you give me?" she asked, her voice trembling yet resolute. The keeper tilted his head, the smile he wore twisting into something unnaturally wide. "Truth?" he mused, as if savoring the word, "can be a most slippery thing. What do you think it's worth in this forsaken place?" Shadows danced at his feet, his influence suffocating, pulling Melanie further into his web. "Anything. Just let them go." Her voice was barely a whisper, desperation tightening around her throat like a noose. The keeper leaned closer, a predatory glimmer flashing in his eyes. "Ah, but children know no bounds. Their lives could sparkle forever. His voice cracked with glee. All it takes is one fragile soul to stoke the light's flame. With each syllable, those grotesque portraits grinned wider in the dark, a chorus of lost hopes. The memories of every child that had endured this nightmare flashed through Melanie's mind. No, she shouted, steel sharpening her resolve. They would not become part of his sick collection. What will you wager? He pressed, eyes narrowing. A glimmer of an idea pierced through her fog of fear. I'll tell you a secret. One that binds us all, she said, forcing the words from her lips. A piece of history never revealed. The keeper paused, intrigued. Very well. Let us hear this pivotal truth. But remember, every action has a weight, Melanie. My patience is limited. The mist thickened, curling tighter around them. My grandmother, she started, her voice trembling yet steady. She once lived in a lighthouse not too different from this one. They say it was cursed that those who entered never came out. The keeper chuckled darkly. How quaint. But what of it? She was a keeper herself. Melanie continued. The light of her beacon was fed by the memories of those lost at sea. All those who sought refuge but drowned in despair. Their whispers illuminated her every night. The keeper's smile faltered, just for a moment. And she sacrificed her sanity to keep the light strong. Eventually, she shared in their fate, swallowed by the shadows that haunted the lighthouse. The light had to be fed, and it craved the very souls it saved. Silence blanketed the room as even the shadows paused, hanging on her words. The keeper's expression morphed into disbelief, fury bubbling just beneath the surface. You dare to challenge me with tales of weak hearts? You think a story can satisfy the lighthouse's hunger? He hissed, venom dripping from his tone. No, not just a tale, Melanie shouted, her voice echoing, filled with newfound hope. This truth is my offering. It proves I know what darkness this place holds. I will not be another victim. You cannot take us. A tremor passed through the keeper, his face contorting into a rage that made her skin crawl. You will regret this, Melanie. The shadows surged around him, writhed with fury, devouring the flickering light of that old lamp. The power of the lighthouse crackled ominously, the air heavy with the remnants of shattered trust. Do you want to know the truth? You are bound by choices more than you realize. This lighthouse allows you to barter but not without a price. The walls flickered and twisted, the light beyond the door dimmed. In that moment of terrifying clarity, Melanie realized her bargaining had unleashed something far darker. The keeper might have hesitated, but an insatiable hunger still coursed through the lighthouse, unquenched and roaring for blood. Mommy! Her son cried, clutching her tightly. A scream built in her throat, yet it felt stifled, silenced by impending doom. Every choice has a consequence. Melanie, the keeper growled, advancing, merging with the shadows. And now, I will show you just how far that consequence stretches. Despair tightened its hold as the whispers returned, louder, maddening. What lay behind the door now? Taunting and relentless. The keeper's eyes glimmered, and Melanie knew there would be no easy escape. Would she unravel the truth before it claimed her and her children? Or would they all become part of the lighthouse's cursed legacy? The darkness shifted, and a bone-chilling scream shattered the silence. Would the keeper take what he desired, or could she outwit him in this vile game? As the shadows closed in, the choice would soon become unbearable. The shadows pressed closer, groping around Melanie like unseen hands. Each breath she took felt heavy and choked by the malevolence swelling in the air. The keeper's laughter echoed, ripping through the tension, piercing her resolve with a kind of glee reserved for the most sadistic of predators. Here, in this forsaken place, the lights flicker not just with hope but with despair. He taunted, pulling the darkness tighter around them. Melanie's mind raced. What was it he truly wanted? And how could she protect her children? Do you think your grandmother's tale can save you? His voice slithered through the thickening air, his eyes narrowing, reflecting the dim light. They are not tales, they are warnings. She shouted, an urgency spiraling through her voice. I can offer you a truth far greater than any story. I know the horrors that dwell within these walls, lurking. What would you do with those secrets? A flicker of hesitation crossed the keeper's twisted face before anger erupted again. Secrets. They are mere dust in the wind. Yet there was a moment, a chink in his armor. Maybe, just maybe, if she pressed harder. With fear pumping in her veins, she added, "This lighthouse fed off the innocent who sought refuge. Their cries, the longing for safety, created a loop, a vortex of suffering, drawing in every desperate soul. You're feeding off that pain, aren't you?" The keeper's expression transformed, almost contemplative, and she seized the moment. What if it could be different? What if you could be more than this? A fragment of doubt flickered across his gaze. The darkness recoiled ever so slightly, as though contemplating the breadth of her words. In that ache of silence, she felt a newfound bravery swell within her chest. It ignited her instinct to fight. Let us break the cycle. You could turn this lighthouse into a beacon of hope, of salvation. But the keeper's rage flared back, and the shadows hissed, swirling violently. "Hope?" he snarled. "Hope is for the weak. You think you can change what you are? What I am?" Melanie felt the room constrict around her, her heartbeat sinking with the crunch of wood beneath her feet. Bile rose in her throat as somewhere deep within the lighthouse, she sensed a surge, a consciousness awakening. The walls seemed to pulse, a malignant force rushing to fill the void left by the keeper's momentary falter. "Mommy!" Her son clung tighter, his small figure trembling against her leg. "Silence!" The keeper snapped, his voice booming. A clap of thunder in an already stormy night. "You think to play this game? You'll all become just another part of the light, another memory to feed my hunger." A shudder raced through Melanie. Would they be consumed? The weight of despair threatened to crush her. She had to try. "Stop! Look around!" she cried, desperation flooding her voice like water into a sinking ship. "You are not just a keeper of the lost. You are lost, too." He hesitated again, confusion flickering across his features. In that fleeting moment, Melanie lunged forward, a last-ditch ploy. "You were once warm, you were once human. I see it. You don't have to remain this thing." But the rage was thickening again, shadow swallowing doubt. The very walls shivered, tuning into his fury, preparing for an upheaval. "Enough!" he roared, slamming his hand against the wall. It reverberated like a bomb, rattling her bones. Teeth gritted. She braced herself as the shadows around him writhed in a violent frenzy. "Mommy, I'm scared," her son whimpered, his innocence piercing through the darkness surrounding them. Melanie's heart raced. Every choice they'd made thus far, each intricate thread of negotiation, had led them here, and she had to make one powerful decision for him. And then, just as her resolve coalesced, she heard it, a distant, echoing laughter, bone-chilling and eerie. The lighthouse was responding, and it wanted more than just her words. "I will give you both," the keeper spat, eyes glimmering with savage intent. "Come to me and I will show you the true cost of your truth." And without warning, the lighthouse shuddered. Violently, the very foundations moaning like a tortured soul. Doors creaked, shadows surged, swallowing light whole. The price of survival was about to be revealed, and as the walls of the lighthouse began to twist and scream, Melanie realized they might not escape this place at all. Would truth be her savior? Or would it seal their fates forever locked within these haunted walls? A sliver of hope flickered inside her, but dread clawed at her thoughts. Was it too late? The ground trembled beneath Melanie's feet, as if the lighthouse itself was breathing a beast awakening from a lair of shadow. The keeper's laughter twisted into a cacophony of wails, overlapping echoes that tangled around her mind, turning her thoughts raw and frayed. "Come to me," he beckoned again, each syllable saturated with wicked promise. "Give in to the darkness. Join the hungry echoes that long for your warmth. I will grant you salvation, fleeting as it may be. Stay close." Melanie urged her son, wrapping an arm around him. She could barely feel his soft warmth against the cold that emanated from the keeper, a chilling reminder of what they faced. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but where would they run? The shadows had cut off their escape. No, the keeper's growl rolled through the chamber like a gathering storm. You think you have the power over me with your words? I will have both of you and more. The air thickened, coiling around them, suffocating, invasive. The walls began to drip with a dark, viscous substance, possessing a pulse of its own, crawling inward, dragging the shadows along like they were alive. Melanie could hardly breathe, every instinct urging her to resist despite the overwhelming force pressing down on her. Mommy, her son's voice trembled, bright against the darkness. I don't want to be light. I want to stay with you. Hints of guilt flooded her heart. We'll find a way out, baby. I promise. She squeezed him tighter, feeling his small body shake. But before she could steady her thoughts, the keeper lunged forward, cloaked in darkness. His form twisted and morphed, shadows rippling like liquid night. You can't fight what you don't understand. This lighthouse hungers. We are all trapped in the cycle. Do you dare break it? Melanie's gut twisted as she looked into those soulless eyes, searching for a glimpse of humanity. You've become a monster, but it doesn't have to be that way. Who were you before the screams filled this place? What did you lose? For a moment, she saw something in his gaze, a flicker of vulnerability. Her heart surged with hope, even as the darkness hissed and wrapped tighter around her, its fingers brushing against her skin, coaxing her fear to the surface. But in an instant, that doubt vanished, replaced by a savage fury. You think your attempts at compassion will save you? You will share their fate. His hand shot forward, claw-like, extending into the void, a grasp meant to ensnare. Melanie jumped aside, panic electrifying her movements. No, I refuse to be a part of your darkness. The lighthouse groaned, the very structure splitting, the walls retracting at odd angles, threatening to collapse. With splintered and cracked, thunderous turmoil erupting in the confines of their inexplicable prison. What you've built here, it will consume you, she shouted, finding strength in the chaos. I will not allow my son, or any more souls to be devoured. Your hunger ends tonight. With every ounce of determination, she reached for her grandmother's tail, her only weapon against the darkness. There was once a lighthouse that shone bright, guiding lost souls to safety. Love is stronger than hate. It breaks every chain. But then, the keeper launched himself toward her, shadows swirling in a tempest, howling in rage. They whipped forward, and Melanie felt the stinging cold encircle her neck like a noose. Did you think mere words could tame what was unleashed? His twisted face loomed closer, filled with ancient malice. Time stuttered, her heart thundered painfully in her chest. The walls roared back, ready to seal her fate in an eternal void, the remnants of hope flickering as desperately as the light around them. Would her grandmother's legacy save them, or would it only invoke further wrath? The lighthouse screamed in agony, and as shadows lunged for her, she realized with growing dread. A choice had to be made, a sacrifice demanded, and the truth now felt like a curse. And before she could process the enormity of their situation, she heard it, a voice beneath the rising chaos, haunting and familiar, whispering from the depths of the lighthouse, promising something unfathomable. Join us, Melanie, join us, and we will show you the way. The choice loomed like the cliff's edge. Would she dive into the darkness, or fight with whatever she had left to escape? She felt it, the pressure forcing her down, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The keeper's laughter melded with the whispers, a symphony of seduction and despair. What choice lay in making a deal with darkness? What price would she pay? Mommy, help! Her son's voice cut through the chaos like a beacon, drawing her back. Melanie focused on him, her world narrowing to the desperate look in his eyes. She crouched low, bridging the space between their bodies, searching for the light still burning within him. Listen to me, she gasped, her heart racing. We need to believe. The light, it can guide us. But somewhere deep in her, uncertainty festered. The keeper's words gnawed at her resolve. Join us echoed like an ominous promise. What if enacting her grandmother's tale meant something darker? The shadows writhed eagerly, whispering secrets about the darkness long ingested. They beckoned with ghostly fingers, brandishing taunting visions of fear and loss. She could see the faces of those who had succumbed, faces she could almost remember. As if sensing her faltering grip, the keeper surged forward. This is a false light. It blinds you. Cling to your son. But know this: every moment spent resisting draws you closer to despair. Time twisted. Her son yanked on her sleeve, panic bubbling in his earnest eyes. Mommy, don't listen. With each heartbeat, the shadows thickened, the air buzzing with malice. She felt the weight of choices and regrets closing in. Would she trade light for comfort? What would she give for safety, for peace? Love is stronger than hate, she shouted, her breath ragged. Was it true? Or just words in a moment of terror? Are you so naive to keep hoping? Join them. Lift the veil. You will see. The keeper's voice dripped with disdain, each laugh whispering temptations dark as night. It wrapped around her mind, squeezing, promising answers to questions she couldn't articulate. But she wouldn't break. Not now. We will find a way, she shouted, forcing strength into her voice. Then came the shift. The twisted reality began to warp. The walls pulsed in rhythm with her heart, dark viscous streams turning to familiar light shades, as if the keeper was losing control. No, the keeper screamed, fury twisting his features. The shadows howled, thrashing wildly, and the light pulsed between them, shimmering moments of clarity amid the turmoil. Go, Melanie urged her son, shoving him back, forcing him to take a step toward the flickering glow. Run toward the light. Before she could follow, the ground shook violently. Cracks splintered the chamber, fissures unleashing waves of darkness threatening to swallow her whole. In that chaos, she loosened a glimmer of the story, her last thread of hope. Love will break the chains of despair. The words echoed, bouncing off the wall's golden rays piercing through the murky shadows. The keeper recoiled with a snarl, panic flashing across his face. But time, that cruel master, wavered. The shadows lunged, clawing toward her. She saw the frantic worry in her son's eyes, felt the gravity of the abyss creeping closer. The choice blurred again, her heart pounded in her ears. Would she plunge into the light, risking everything, or yield to darkness? And as the shadows spiraled around her like a tempest, another whisper broke through the tumult, chilling her blood. Your sacrifice is needed, Melanie. Embrace the truth. The ground trembled, the light flickered, and with it, a question hung heavy in the air. What truth awaited her in either choice, and at what cost would it come? In that moment, the very fabric of the lighthouse shivered, threatening to unravel into infinite darkness, leaving her fighting not only for her son, but the very essence of light itself. Would she succumb or find the strength to sever the inevitable ties of despair? The shadows lunged, surging like living tides, clawing at her ankles with icy fingers. Melanie's pulse quickened, a frantic drummer urging her forward. No, she cried out, wrestling against the suffocating darkness that thickened around them. Mommy, please. Her son's voice trembled, drowning in wails of despair that echoed through the crumbling walls. She could feel the cold, oily hands of the keeper wrapping around her throat, squeezing the warmth from her body. Panic clawed at her insides, mustering every ounce of strength. She tore her gaze from her son and threw herself toward the flickering light. It flickered, waning and waxing, like hope dancing on the edge of despair. For a moment, she felt a warmth envelop her, as if the light reached out and licked her skin, urging her to come closer. But the shadows clamored again, a deafening roar threatening to drown the last flicker of hope. Their whispers morphed into guttural laughter. Was it her son or the keeper speaking? She couldn't tell. Embrace the truth, the keeper boomed, his voice slicing through her thoughts. You want to save him? You must pay the price. Melanie hesitated, grappling with the notion that maybe, just maybe, her sacrifice was the only solution. What do you want? She shouted, forcing the words through the terror constricting her throat. Your love. The purest form, the keeper hissed, his eyes gleaming like polished obsidian. The light feeds on it. Sacrifice yourself and the boy shall be free. No, she screamed, shaking her head. I refuse. I'd rather be consumed by this darkness than let it take my son. The shadows recoiled as if stung, retreating momentarily. Her defiance echoed, stirring something deep within her that she thought long buried. She felt the weight of love pulsing through her veins, and in that moment, she wielded it like a weapon. Love is my strength. The chamber trembled again. The walls screamed, seams giving way as darkness surged. It twisted, reforming, coiling around her son, a serpent ready to strike. Melanie's heart sank. She could see his confusion, the flicker of fear blending with trust. "Mommy, help me." He called again, rooted to the spot as shadow tendrils slithered toward him. "Run," she shouted, thrusting a hand toward the light. The room buckled as furor rose all around. "Flee while you can." His feet shifted, but not fast enough. Despair set in as he glanced at her, searching for the source of strength he believed would save them. Then, she felt it, the tether between them, a thread woven with their shared love. "I will not let them consume you," she declared. The moment sparked, igniting even the deepest corners of the darkness. "Embrace the dark," the keeper hissed, despair twisting his features. "You will drown in your pain." But Melanie refused to yield. She clenched her fists, summoning the last reservoirs of strength. "Not today. I will not let it win." With a scream, she unleashed the love she felt, a blinding surge of light erupting from her core, slashing through the waves of darkness. The keeper shrieked as the light enveloped him, the shadows recoiling like feral cats at the scent of a predator. But as the radiance surged, she saw the keeper's twisted satisfaction flicker for a second. "You think this light will save you? You know nothing of the truth." A shuddering explosion rocked the chamber as the shadows writhed. For an instant, they parted, revealing a doorway bathed in brilliance. Without thinking, she lunged toward her son. He stood frozen, eyes wide with horror, the tendrils now 2 inches from his grasp. Her heart dropped. "No, no, no." With one desperate leap forward, she grasped him, dragging him toward the light as the darkness raged behind them, shrieks morphing into a banshee-esque wail. But they knew the truth unraveled as they rushed into the blinding light. And then it stopped. Suddenly, the light flicked off like an extinguished candle, plunging them into an abyss. "Mommy?" came the soft plea, trembling as the familiarity faded. "Hold on," she whispered, panic clawing back at her. "Hold on," but the darkness echoed, curling around them, and in that moment she understood. The keeper's final words flared in her mind like hellfire. What truth had she embraced, and would they ever escape its grasp? The silence enveloped them, daunting and oppressive. What awaited them in this void? Would the spectral whispers become their new companions, or was there something more sinister lurking ahead? The darkness pressed in, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. It was thick and malevolent, crawling over her skin, whispering promises of despair. Melanie clutched her son tightly, his small body trembling against her. He felt cold and fragile, like a candle flickering in a tempest. "Where are we?" he whispered, his voice fragile. "I don't know, sweetie," she managed, her throat tight with fear. "But we're together. We'll find a way out." Silence draped over them like a heavy blanket, heavy with the dread of the unknown. She strained her ears, trying to catch any sound, but it was just the beating of their hearts echoing in the stillness. A deep, shuddering breath escaped her. "Stay close," she murmured as a chill wind swept through the void, teasing the edges of her sanity. Suddenly, a soft glow flickered in the distance, breaking the monotony of darkness. It pulsed faintly, drawing her in with a siren's call. Melanie hesitated. Was it hope, or was it a trap? She felt the pull of the light, warm against the icy void. "Come on," she said, gripping her son's hand tighter. "Let us see what it is." Moving cautiously, they stepped forward into the light's warmth. As they approached, the glow enlarged, taking form, morphing into a figure. The wraith-like silhouette hovered just above the ground, eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Welcome," it whispered, a voice like the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. You fought bravely, but this is your ending. No, Melanie shouted, stepping protectively in front of her son. We will not let you take him. The figure smiled, an expression that twisted its features grotesquely. You mistake our intent. I am a guardian of truth. Your love was powerful, but it has brought you here to judgment. The word hung in the air, heavy with foreboding. Judgment? She echoed, fear creeping back as shadows swirled at the edges of the light. Yes, it said, voice smooth like honey, but laced with a venomous edge. You have sacrificed so much yet stand on the brink of despair. But the Keeper knows your hearts, your deepest fears. You cannot escape this darkness without facing what it holds. Melanie's vision blurred as fragmented memories danced before her. Her son's laughter, the warmth of their embrace, the joy that had filled their home before it all crumbled into chaos. I won't lose him, she insisted, rage igniting in her chest. The guardian's eyes glinted like shards of ice. Then you must confront your truth. Only then can you hope to leave. As shadows began to close in, tendrils reaching for her son, a distant echo of the Keeper's laughter resounded in her mind. What truth? She cried out, desperation coloring her voice. You will discover it, Melanie. Embrace the darkness around you, only then shall you grasp the light. With that, the figure vanished in a whirl of mist, leaving them surrounded by encroaching shadows. Heart racing, she felt her son quaking beside her. Mommy, I'm scared, me too, she whispered, resolve hardening. But we will face whatever comes. With every step, the darkness surged, swirling threats shrieking in her ears, taunting her with glimpses of her own insecurities. Images flashed before her. The moment she almost let go when her marriage fell apart, her guilt over not being enough. Every failure slithered back to haunt her. Mommy, I can't, her son whimpered. Panic surged, and she turned to him fiercely. You can. We are stronger together. You have to fight just like I am. But deep inside, she felt the truth clawing at her resolve. Were they truly stronger together? Or was this darkness a reflection of her own fears? The shadows pressed closer, and a chilling thought echoed. Facing her truth meant facing him as well. What if she was the one to blame for the darkness creeping into their lives? With breath held tight in her throat, she glanced toward the looming shadows, where a shape began to take form. Could she confront this truth? Melanie, it whispered, drawing closer. And as the figure emerged from the dark, she could feel the weight of eternity hanging in the air. The time of confrontation was near, and she had to know. What if her greatest fear was only the beginning of something far more sinister? The darkness rippled and throbbed, a living entity demanding her fear. Melanie's heart raced as the figure emerged from the shadows. Every instinct screamed to flee with her son. But they were trapped. She squeezed her son's hand tighter, grounding them both as the whispering form took shape. Melanie, it called softly, yet the voice felt familiar and insidious at the same time. No, she shouted, her voice breaking. You're not real. But deep down she knew. This was a manifestation of her fear, a reflection of her deepest insecurities. The shadows writhed in anticipation, feeding off her doubt. Suddenly, the figure stepped forward, revealing a face that twisted her gut. It was her ex-husband. He looked the same, yet worn, eyes haunted by the remnants of their shared past. You wanted to set us free, but did you ever really let me go? Tremors coursed through her. What do you want from me? She demanded, stepping in front of her son, shielding him from this dark memory. Your guilt, your regret, he smirked. You never forgave me for things I did, or for your own failures. You let that darkness seep into your heart. It's the very thing holding you here. No, she cried out, wrestling with the truth. I loved you. You broke me. You were supposed to be my partner. Were you really in it together, Melanie? His voice was dripping with disdain. Did you ever really listen to me? Understand what I needed? You were always so focused on your own struggles. Images of their fights whirled in her mind, the harsh words exchanged like weapons, the anger that burned between them. But it was more than that. I tried to navigate our issues alone, she admitted, feeling tears prick her eyes. But I can't let this define me or my son. He took a step forward, his shadow growing heavier. But it already has. You made choices you can't take back. Choices that will hurt your child. Stop, Melanie shouted, heart pounding, her own voice echoing off the distant walls. I wouldn't let that happen. Not again. But he was unyielding. You're weak, Melanie. Fearful of confronting the darkness you opened yourself to. The shadows surged, and for an agonizing moment, she felt the pull of hopelessness. She had to accept the truth, to confront it before it consumed her. You're right, she said, forcing the words past her dry throat. I let my past chain me, but I will fight for him. I won't be that person anymore. Will you risk everything? He challenged, a grin curling on his lips. You cannot save him and yourself. You must choose. Choose? She echoed. No, I refuse to choose between us. Her son, trembling beside her, looked up with wide eyes. Mommy, don't listen. With a jolt of clarity, she caught sight of the light flickering in the distance again, shimmering with potential. Love is stronger than fear, she declared, almost defiantly. The figure recoiled slightly, as if hit by a wave. She pushed through the darkness wrapping around her. You are nothing but a memory, Melanie shouted, each word carrying the weight of her resolution. No, the figure spat, the shadows coiling around her son, slithering closer. Not today, she roared, stepping forward. You don't have power over us. The shadows around her darkened momentarily. Face the truth. For a blink, the atmosphere shifted. Melanie held her breath, letting the raw emotions fill her up, challenging the specter. I was afraid of failure, of being alone. A wave of the past crashed over her, and tears streamed down her cheeks. But she didn't back down. But I won't give in. I refuse. I won't let fear overtake me. Her voice grew stronger, resonating with courage as she felt the love she had for her son rise in her heart, lighting a fire from within. I will break this cycle. I will embrace light. I am strong enough to face whatever darkness ahead. In the face of her declaration, the shadows convulsed violently, a storm brewing in its depths. The keeper's distant laughter echoed through the void, but it faltered, tightening around him as if he could feel the change. Mommy, her son's voice trembled, laced with a hint of hope. Here, baby. She solidified her grip on his hand, channeling reassuring strength into him. I'll always fight. I'll always protect you, she vowed. The figure of her ex-husband distorted, morphing into a swirling mass of shadows that shivered, shrieking as they began to dissolve before the light. Melanie felt strength surge. Let it go. All of it, she yelled, and at that moment, the horizon of shadows began to crack, light streaming through, fighting against the darkness. Embrace the light, Melanie shouted toward her son, pulling him closer, focusing on the flicker ahead filled with endless potential. And as they leaped toward the brightness together, the threads of shadow pulled back, shrieking and biting at the edges of their release. The light enveloped her like a warm embrace, pushing the darkness away like autumn leaves caught in the wind. But still, the keeper lurked at the edge of her consciousness, whispering, You will always remain trapped in your fears. You cannot escape all the fears that had threatened to consume her. I am not afraid, she declared into the whirlwind of shadow and light, and with those words, the last vestiges of despair crumbled, the shadows flaring before collapsing in upon themselves as the brilliance swallowed them. Melanie felt her heartbeat calm, confusion lifting, replaced with the rush of warmth. And suddenly, they were free, standing on the edge of that lighthouse's worn threshold. The tendrils of darkness fizzled into nothing, finally released. The lighthouse stood behind them, silent now, stripped of its malevolence. The threat faded, leaving only the remnants of what almost trapped them. Melanie looked down at her son, his innocent face illuminated by the soft dawn light. We did it, she whispered, disbelieving yet grateful. Mommy, he squealed, throwing his arms around her waist, safe and whole. We're okay. Yes, she breathed, deeply inhaling the crisp morning air, glancing back at the now seemingly harmless structure. This lighthouse full of secrets that had once threatened their lives now remained behind them, a solemn reminder of the past, but also a beacon of how far they had come. With every step forward, hugging her son close, she felt a warmth inside, affirming her choice: love, hope, resilience. This was just the beginning. For every secret, every fear, there lay a path to healing. And wherever they went, she would carry the light with her, illuminating even the darkest corners of the past. Time would allow her to forge a new legacy, one not burdened by despair, but lifted by love. As they walked towards their new tomorrow, the dawn blossomed vibrant and bright, wrapping the world in golden warmth, echoing their unity. And Melanie knew together, they would always find the way. Now, hear us where you come in. You need to subscribe now to the channel to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the word. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because only true fans understand how important it is to support our storytelling.